Lloyd is online. So Lloyd, I'm just gonna highlight your screen and unmute you. How is everything going?
Yeah, it's going good at the moment. Yeah, it's not too bad.
I don't know how much of my spiel you just heard. A little bit about like your local history in Bristol and coming through the ranks, and then a little bit obviously about your move to Bournemouth and a bit about your international career so far, and then some questions about lockdown. And
you see him now?
Yeah, Barney, over to you.
Hi, my name is Barney and I am an under 11. What grassroots club did you play for, and were there any other boys there as good as you?
Yeah, so I started at Bristol Central, who was a Sunday league team based in Easton in Bristol. I was there from maybe under 9s all the way up to about under 13s, 14s. And there was a fair few boys in that team that was actually all right as well. But luckily enough, I managed to get out of there and get my trial at Bristol City. But yeah, there was a fair few of us that could have been a professional footballer. So I was just one of many, really.
When you were at Bristol Central, was there any other boys who moved on with you to Bristol City or Bristol Rovers, or?
I can't think back now. Top of my head, there was a couple, maybe one or two who went to Bristol Rovers. I'm not too sure what those guys are doing now. But no, I was the only one who went on to being at Bristol City.
I can't seem to find the person who's asking the next question, so I'll ask the next question we've actually got on our list.
Yeah.
How well did you do at school, and how young were you when you realised that you thought you could go into football?
In school-wise, primary school and things like that were okay. They weren't too bad. Most of my day was me stressing about the time where I was able to go outside and play football, trying to get my schoolwork done as quickly as I can. But no, in terms of obviously primary school and secondary school as well, I'm guessing these boys are.
We've got quite a range on. We've got, I think the youngest would be 8, and we've got up to 15 on. So there's quite a range on. So.
Okay. So yeah, even secondary school, most of my time was me trying to play as much as football as I can. Obviously, school's a big part in growing up and things like that. So most of the time I'd say majority of the time was me focusing on that football aspect. But in terms of potential, I always grew up with a ball at my feet. There was never really a day where I didn't really think about football or didn't want to play football. So I did have a lot of belief in myself that I could do something in the world of football. So yeah.
Ed, we're on you.
I am Ed from the under 11s.
Oh, yeah.
How and when did you get scouted by Bristol City, and was there any other interest?
So I got scouted not long after I started secondary school. So I went to secondary school, the City Academy, Bristol. That was based in Easton as well. And I went on to do like a trial period at Bristol City. So this was around maybe 12 or 13 years old. Done a 6-week, 7-week training period where I was put through all these different tests and training and things like that. And then they finally gave me, I think it was a 2-year deal at that time, which I was buzzing about. Obviously, growing up and watching football in Bristol, really, there's only 2 teams. So, and obviously Bristol City at that time was the bigger club. So it was a special time, really.
Did you have any player in the first team at that point that like was your like idol and that you wanted to you wanted to play like, or?
Do you know what? Funny enough, I was looking through old photos the other day and things like that, and a couple signed pictures from like Nicky Maynard when he was there, and David James, obviously he's a goalkeeper, but Nicky Maynard was probably one player that stood out to me when I was a lot younger.
Yeah.
Looking at Bristol City, because he was a profound goal scorer.
Hi Lloyd, I'm Callum from the Under-9s. My question is, you were at Bristol City Academy for many years, and I would like to know what you enjoyed most about academy football and what was your biggest challenge?
Good question. What I enjoyed most about academy football was that little group that you were in. Those people wanted the same thing. Everyone wanted to just play football as much as they could. Obviously, at those days, we were, most of the time when I was a lot younger, it was training Monday, Wednesday and Friday in the evenings after school and things like that. So whenever we had training, it was just pure enjoyment, pure fun. And I think that's the main thing to get out of it. Obviously, you want to try and succeed and make a living or go as far as you can. But I think without that fun aspect, everyone wants to have fun playing football or with the ball at your feet. So yeah, that was probably the most enjoyable part of being in the academy setup. But yeah, the biggest challenge, I think academy football, the biggest challenge for me was there was a lot of players in every team, and some days you wouldn't be able to get as many minutes as you want. So that was a kind of hard thing for me, especially because at this time, when I was playing, say, under 15s, under 16s football, I didn't really have much minutes. I didn't really play too much. I was more maybe with the under 15s or with under 16s, and there was players in my age group who was playing up with the under 18s on like the main pitch. So there's a lot of ups and downs in terms of academy football, but you just got to make sure you kind of keep that level head, keep your eyes in the same direction, and I think 8, 9 times out of 10 you'll get there.
So when you were obviously in the 15s and 16s, were you mainly playing in defence, or did your position change as you grew up? Yeah,
so going from where I was at Bristol Central, I was a left wing, right winger, more attack-minded player. And then when I started at Bristol City's academy, I was still that attack-minded player. But as the seasons went on and as I got older, I kind of dropped back. So it kind of became my left back became my position from around under 15, 16s.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of made sure that I nailed down this position, in a sense that I was making sure I'd done everything right. I studied the game as much as I could, whether that's watching clips. I'm not sure whether you guys will have.
I've just muted someone because they started talking over you. So in relation to obviously being a fullback, and obviously only one position really for you to play in first team games and under 18s and under 23s when you were coming through, how was it like having to be patient and waiting for that opportunity?
Don't get me wrong, it can become very stressful, because all you want to do at the end of the day is train throughout that week, and the only thing on your mind is that performance on the weekend, because everyone wants to play 90 minutes or the whole game. That's what everyone sets their mind out to do. But when you don't get that opportunity every week, it can become a bit, I would say stressful. But at the end of the day, everyone's got a different journey. Everyone's got a different path on where they want to get to. So I think it's just making sure that you stick with it, no matter what. But I'd say, yeah, that's the main thing.
My name is George Cook, and I'm under 12. So what did it feel like when you signed your first pro contract, and what goals did you set yourself after?
Good question. Signing my first contract at Bristol City was amazing, really. Looking back at it now, I didn't really know what I felt like, to be honest. It was all a bit of a rush of emotion, sitting down and putting that pen to the paper. Back then, I didn't really have a signature either. So yeah, it was a really good moment. It was a moment where you just think all that hard work that you've put in, you get that contract, and it kind of drives you to, it hungers you a bit more, and you want to keep going and get that next contract or get that starting position wherever you may play. So it does, getting something like that is a really good feeling, but it does want to kind of drive you on and make you a bit hungrier.
Did you have the feeling that you knew you were doing well and that contract was coming?
At that time, I didn't really think about it too much, if I'm being honest, because this was when I was still in that transition phase between under 16s and under 18s football. And then luckily enough, from under 18s or between the 16s and 18s, I managed to go on tour with the Bristol City first team, me and another player coming straight out of secondary school. So I kind of missed that under 23s football for a little while. Obviously being on tour with the first team was a very good experience, and you picked up many different things, because it's a completely different environment, the academy football, and what it's like being in that professional setup.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good learning curve for me.
Hi, my name is Ashton and I play for the under-10s. What was it like making your first team debut for Bristol City?
My first team debut. I had to think then. Yeah, my first team debut was, that would have been Plymouth, Argyle in the Cup. I think at this point, it was about 70 minutes in, and I think at that time we were about 4-0 up. And then the gaffer shouts over to me, "Oh, Lloyd, get ready." And I was a bit like, what? Sort of thing. I didn't really know what to expect. So I went out, warmed up, came back, and he just said, "Oh yeah, you're going on. Just enjoy the game." So I went on. That rush of emotion from when you're called to stepping foot on the pitch, you can't really describe it. It's just a bit of a mixed emotion. You're feeling happy, you're feeling excited. It's just everything that you dream of, really. But funny enough, as soon as you step on the pitch, everything's just calm. Everything's just, your head's straight in the game. You just want to make sure you play well and do the manager proud that he's put you on, and make sure you have a good game.
Was there any players in the first team at the time who sort of took you under their wing and looked after you?
Yeah, there was loads of players, really. Luckily enough, the group of players that we had at Bristol City throughout the years when I was there, they were second to none. Everyone kind of, whether you were a young lad or not, they kind of took you under their wing, and especially players that were playing in my position at that time, things like Joe Bryan, like Horder Magnuson. Those two players were in that left back spot for the past how many years. So yeah, they took me under their wing, and kind of developed me. But yeah, all of them.
I suppose having someone like Joe to compete with, who obviously went on to play in the Premier League, sort of gave you something to sort of look up to and go, actually, there's someone, I need to be as good as him, I need to be better than him, and really give you expectations to sort of hit and push on with.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, most of the time throughout the first 2 years of me being in mixed with the first team, most of the time I was on the bench. So I got to see how Joe played. I got to see all the ins and outs of Joe in terms of how he played, how he trained and things like that. So I just kind of picked off little things that I thought I could add to my game. And by the end of, the end of the year before he left, it was kind of, there was a friendship between me and Joe, but behind the scenes, both of us knew that it was either going to be one of us that was going to play. So that kind of rivalry just made us better. Seeing someone else playing well kind of hungered you to make sure that you were training well as well. And then when it come to games, it was just
Hi, my name is Preston. I'm in under nines. My question is, as a defender, which skills are most important?
That's a good question. I think for me, the number one skill that I would put as being a defender is being able to defend 1 against 1, because that's where it's hardest to make sure that you can do your job. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to have 4 defenders with you, maybe 5, depending on which formation you play. So yeah, when you're put into that situation of being 1 against 1, it magnifies the whole situation. So you've got to make sure you can defend well 1v1. Then it becomes so much easier when you have 2, 3, 4 teammates around you. So yeah, 1v1 defending is probably the main skill as a defender.
Do you prefer playing in a back 4 or a back 3?
To be honest, I don't really have a preference. Whether this me playing centre half or left back, back 4, back 3. I find quite comfortable playing either, really. Obviously, it depends on the formation that the opposition team are setting up in. So you kind of pick things up as the game goes on. Maybe you need to change your formation as the game goes on, but it's just little things that you pick up on.
Cameron Reardon, under 8s. My question is, what's the best advice you've been given in your football career?
That's another good question. I think the best advice that someone has given to me that I can give to you is, I'd say it's probably just sticking with the process. There's many things in anyone's footballing career, whether that's as young as you guys going through all these different stages, under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, all the way up to first team football. You got to make sure that you stick with your process and believe in what you believe in and believe in yourself, because that's the main thing. Anyone can try and put you off your path, but as long as you're strong in your mind and willing to make sure that you get to where you want to go, I think that's the main thing.
Have you had any major sacrifices you've made along the way which have really been hard to make?
I think throughout, as soon as I started with the first team in the professional, within the first team, all the way up until now, there's been many, I think, sacrifices that you have to make in order to make sure you get to where you want to go, whether there's friends, family, even sometimes you have to make sacrifices with your family, whether there's family events or various different things. Sometimes you may not be able to see your family as much as you want, but that's something that obviously a lot older, when you get to maybe 17, 18 and onwards, that's some sacrifices that you may have to make in order to make sure you stay on that narrow path to success. But yeah, that's only a few sacrifices. There's obviously others, but those are the main ones.
My name is Lenny, and my under nines. And my question is, what do you do in lockdown?
At the moment, obviously, you can't really do much. So most of us have just been given programs to go through while isolating at home. So you go through them on a weekly basis, just doing a bit of gym work, maybe a bit of running, a bit of cardio, maybe jump on the bike even. So yeah, that's pretty much mostly with what everyone's doing at the moment, just making sure that we're ticking over. So when the season does start, or if it does start back, we're ready to continue and play the last remaining games.
And a lot of FIFA and Netflix as well.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Any recommendations from Netflix?
I got a couple, yeah.
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 Right.
Hi, my name is Archie Vine and I'm in the under 11s. My question is, what is your diet like as a professional footballer? Also, what exercise are you able to do in lockdown?
Okay. Diet-wise, obviously as a elite athlete, as I suppose, you got to make sure you kind of putting in the right foods for your body, because when the season's going on, the amount of work you're doing, you got to make sure that you're eating the right things to fuel your body so you can keep going, keep training, keep playing and things like that. So at the moment, obviously during lockdown, was trying to stay away from like pasta and things like that were kind of make us put on a bit of weight. So most of the time it's just quite meat, protein and things like that. So I guess it is a quite strict diet. But one thing I would say is most of the time it's up to us really what we put on our own bodies. There's not really, you get a bit of guideline, you get a bit of help on what you can eat and what you can't eat. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to what you want to do. But 9 times out of 10, I think if you ask every footballer, they have a good diet. But in terms of exercises, as I mentioned before, is mostly bikes, running, a bit of gym stuff, but not too much.
Xanthi.
Hi, my name is Xanthi. I play for the under 10s girls, and my question is, what boots do you wear and why?
Right. At the moment, I am wearing the Adidas X boots for reasons, because I'm currently in sponsorship by Adidas. But I am enjoying the Adidas X's at the moment. I think they're the best boots out. I'm hoping they bring a new colorway out soon, because I'm getting a bit tired of my color that I have at the moment.
What colorway are you in at the moment?
So I'm in the electric blue.
So obviously Adidas provide you with your boots. Do they tell you specifically what color boots you've got to wear as well?
Obviously throughout the year you get, they have many different color drops, whether it's like last year was like a mutant pack, or whether there's a tournament coming up, and they drop like a pack specifically for that tournament.
Yeah.
They try and get every player into the most current boot, so it kind of gives a better image. But most of the time, they bring out some really nice colours.
Hi, I'm Frank Mackay from the Under-12s, and my question is, was there a big difference in the standards of football going from Bristol City to Bournemouth?
Nice question. Obviously, the most blatant thing from Bristol City being in the Championship and Bournemouth in the Premier League, the Premier League is probably the toughest league in football, really. So you get loads of different players with very good quality. So I'd say that's probably one of the biggest differences, is that quality level of between the Championship and that Premier League. Because as a defender, maybe if you make a mistake or give the ball away, in the Championship with Bristol City, you may get away with it. But most of the time you get punished. They'll probably score a goal in the Premier League. And the Championship, I'd say, is a lot faster paced. There's a lot more control in possession in the Premier League. And even like the games, I'd say, is a big difference, because in the Championship, sometimes you can play 2 games a week, maybe 3 sometimes, but most weeks in the Premier League is Saturday to Saturday, maybe a midweek game here and there. But most of the time it's just Saturday. Obviously, Championship, as I said, you get maybe 2 or 3 games a week, and that's sometimes is back-to-back weeks.
Yeah. I presume training with players like Callum Wilson and Fraser and Josh King is up to your game as well, because having players with the attributes that those 3 have, to name a few, sort of must just make you have to set targets each week to keep improving.
Yeah, 100%. I think you surround yourself with players or better players, you're automatically gonna kind of change and adapt to being able to keep up with the tempo, keep up with all the different demands and all the different training and the quality of players you're playing with and training with. You want to make sure you're up there with them. So whether it's doing extras after training, you want to keep doing the little things. I think the little extras that you do after training, whether that's on your own or with someone else, that can always help improve you.
Hi, my name's Isaac and I'm an under-10. What's the atmosphere like in the dressing room, with hoping to return and avoid relegation?
Nice question, mate. The atmosphere in the changing room is good, is very good. Obviously, different players want to do their own things before a game. I think you guys will probably maybe get a bit of music on, have a little dance, have a little boogie or whatever. But sometimes it can be that, or sometimes it can be serious, kind of headphones in, everyone kind of doing their own little things, getting ready to go out to warm up. But yeah, after the game, especially if we get a win, everyone's buzzing, everyone's happy, everyone's smiling, got a bit of music on. There's a good atmosphere in the changing room. And it that atmosphere kind of hungers you for having that same atmosphere the week after. So everyone wants to be happy at the end of the day, and everyone wants to especially get the win.
How are you all communicating via WhatsApp, and sort of is there sort of a ringleader who's keeping you all sort of occupied and trying to keep everyone's spirits high?
Yeah. We're all obviously in contact with everyone back at the club, and making sure that we stay in contact. But yeah, in terms of that one person, most of the time is us getting sent runs to do and things like that. And that's from people, our coaches in the club. So yeah, they're the main person really that kind of we're keeping in contact with.
My name's Ollie, I'm under 12, and my question is, who has been your toughest opponent?
Ooh, wow. My toughest opponent. Funny enough, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I'd say my toughest opponent that I've come up against, especially playing left back, was Adama Traore. This was when he was at Middlesbrough about 2 years ago now. And I'm not too sure if you guys know who Adama Traore is.
I think they all do through FIFA.
Yeah, I imagine so. Get him on the right wing and just use him for pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably one of the quickest players I've ever come up against.
When you played him when he was at Middlesbrough, and I presume you played against him as well when he was at Villa, could you tell that he was going to go on to play the level he has done, and obviously get linked with the clubs that he's getting linked with at the moment?
Yeah, of course. You know straight away when you see a player with massive potential, and it's just a matter of time really when he gets that break, and he's had that break with Wolves this season. He's doing well, and the way he's come on over the past 2 years has been massive. So yeah, you can always kind of get a sense of what a player can be just by seeing them or playing against them that one time.
Hello, my name is Patrick from the under-10s. And my question is, if you could play for one other club and country that isn't yours, who would it be and why?
Nice question. If I could play for any other club, I think it would have to be Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund. And then in terms of country, I have German in my family, so I probably have to say German.
Is there a specific player at Bayern that sort of has been your sort of idol when you grew up as a fullback, or?
Yeah, of course. They got David Alaba, and they got Alphonso Davies there at the moment. Both of them are top class players, and obviously Boateng being a centre back as well. But yeah, those players stand out for me especially.
And Pat's brother has got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hi Lloyd, I'm Ollie from the under-13s. What's it like to go to an international tournament with England?
Yeah, going to a tournament like we did last year was massive, really. Obviously, I've never been to a major tournament before, and especially that one, there was a lot of build-up to that, because at that time, that 21s team was on an unbeaten streak of something like 30 games or something like that. So we were going into that tournament basically as big hitters. And obviously the results of that tournament didn't go our way. But that whole experience of going to a big tournament like that was something that I'll never forget, really. So it was a really good experience.
What was it like being with a group of young players for that amount of time in such a confined space?
Do you know what? It wasn't too bad. It was actually quite nice. Obviously, we've built a connection, or we built a relationship as a whole group throughout the games beforehand. But obviously, going away like that, and I think it was maybe 3-4 weeks we were there. It was nice. Obviously, we had a bit of downtime between games and things like that, to kind of chill and recover for the next game. But yeah, it was nice.
What's it like to play under Eddie Howe? What's it like to play under Eddie Howe?
Playing under Eddie Howe is amazing, really. He's a manager who takes great care in developing young players and making sure he does everything he can to try and push every player to do better and get the outcome that he sees they can achieve. Even on a day-to-day basis, I think there's not one training session where you can have if you feel like you can't really be bothered or you feel a bit tired, if you go into that session with that mindset, he will automatically switch you out of that, because he wants 100% effort in every training session. Otherwise, he feels like you may as well just go inside, sort of thing. So in terms of that, he sets a really high standard for each player to making sure that they develop themselves and make themselves a better player.
I mean, obviously, looking at the style of play that Eddie's played with throughout, coming through the leagues from League One, Championship, Premier League, he's really stuck to his guns. Is that something you believe, if we do return to football, he will continue to do in the relegation fight, if we return to football? Yeah,
100%. I think he's built his philosophy around Bournemouth and he's been there for how many years, and he's worked so many times. So I don't think just because of this relegation thing that's going on at the moment, he's going to change drastically, and everyone at Bournemouth's going to change drastically. Obviously, there's games where you're going to need to adapt and change to different scenarios, whether it's formation or specific players and things like that. But in terms of the whole philosophy of the club, I don't think that's going to change.
I think from all of us, we'd like to thank you and wish you massive success in your career. And because I think for everyone, Bournemouth is closest to home. Really, with having a Bristol lad in the side, it's nice to see you guys do well. So I'm just going to unmute everyone so everyone can say thank you, because it's really appreciated. Thank you for giving up some of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Lloyd Kelly.